Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is so great to be with you today. My name is Richard Bury. I have the distinct honor of being CEO of Robinhood, and I am so pleased to welcome you to the 36th Annual Heroes Breakfast. Thanks for being here. You know, New York City has been the proving ground for just about everything that matters in America. From finance to technology to media to fashion to the arts, no other city can take something that seems impossible, like the Knicks being good, or the Jets winning 2 games in a row, and make it real the way that New York can. But of all the big ideas that this city has tested, none has mattered more than this one. As New Yorkers, we take care of our own. Over the past 4 decades, Robinhood has found the most effective organizations solving the most intractable social and economic problems. We invest, we innovate, we measure results, and we share what works with the city, the country, and the world. And over time, through the generosity of all the people in this room, we have raised and deployed over $3 billion. $3 billion. To New Yorkers making permanent escapes out of poverty. We know that for every dollar we invest, generates $8 in returns for those in need. This morning, you're going to hear about 3 of the more than 300 extraordinary organizations we support, and how they are helping people living in poverty answer some of life's most basic questions. Will I earn enough money to support myself? Will my kids get the education they deserve? Will we have a safe and affordable place to call home? At Robinhood, our work is about finding, supporting, and scaling the programs that help people answer yes to those questions. Over the past weeks, we've seen Robinhood at its best. When federal food benefits were interrupted because of the government shutdown, we increased funding to all of our emergency food grantees by 50%. On top of that, we provided direct cash assistance to nearly 40,000 of the poorest New Yorkers, just to make sure they could put food on the table that week. I know that you, like me, are proud to be part of an organization that takes action quickly and effectively to lend a helping hand when our neighbors need it the most, just as they do right now. You can applaud for that. And I know that you are all committed to making sure that Robinhood will be there for our neighbors, not only today, but for the coming generations as well. Because as proud as we are of the progress we've made, we know that our work is far from done, not while 2 million of our fellow New Yorkers are still living in poverty. If New York is the place where the boldest ideas are tested, then we shouldn't be afraid to test the boldest idea of all, that we can end intergenerational poverty in our city once and for all. That we can build a city where the American dream is real, where your starting point in life does not determine where you end up in life. And now I am so proud to introduce my friend, Robinhood board member, Tony Pasquarello, to introduce our first honoree. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Pasquarello, and I'm proud to be a board member of Robinhood. Back in 2009, I sent an email to Paul Tudor Jones and said that I wanted to get more directly involved in the work of the foundation. He responded immediately and said that I should join the board of a charter school because education is the great multiplier. That led me to join the board of a Robinhood grantee, Excellence Boys and Excellence Girls of Bed-Stuy, and that's where I got my first look into the magic of Robinhood, which I believe is the intersection of 3 forces. 1, the grantees and community partners who do God's work every day across New York City. 2, the machine that is the Robin Hood Foundation, which has set the standard of excellence for any nonprofit. And 3, the generosity, the immense generosity of those who support Robin Hood, many of whom are in this room today. Now, when I think of Robin Hood, I think of a quote from one of our country's most important citizens, Dr. Martin Luther King, who once said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." I then think of what another great American, Mr. Bruce Springsteen, had to say of that original quote. "I've lived long enough to put some faith in it, but I've also lived long enough to know the arc doesn't bend on its own. It needs all of us leaning on it, nudging it in the right direction, day after day." In the doing, across 300 of its community partners, that is the magic of Robin Hood. It is the leaning, it is the nudging, day after day. Next, you're going to hear from one of those grantees, the FDNY Foundation, which is another board that I'm proud to serve on. The FDNY Foundation supports over 15,000 first responders through funding for equipment, training, family assistance, and public education. In fact, Robin Hood is the largest private funder of the FDNY Foundation's EMS Academy, which trains young New Yorkers to become emergency medical technicians. Now, if you've been in this orbit for a while, you'll recall there's a bond between Robin Hood and the FDNY. Back in 2001, just 6 weeks after 9/11, it was Robin Hood who put together the concert for New York City at MSG. That night is remembered for those who were on stage: The Who, the Rolling Stones, Billy Joel, Sir Paul McCartney. It is also remembered for those who were in the audience, a sea of over 6,000 first responders and their families. And it is remembered for the $65 million that was raised and deployed immediately through a relief fund. That was certainly one of Robin Hood's finest hours. But more than anything, that night should be remembered as a tribute to the 343 firefighters who charged into the Twin Towers and did not come back out. 343. So I can't think of a better example of what it means to be a hero and what Robin Hood stands for than its partnership with the FDNY. And with that, it is my privilege to introduce you to the FDNY Foundation and to firefighter Derek Henderson of Engine 26.
Thank you, Tony. And good morning, Robin Hood. It's kind of weird to be up here because the truth is, I never wanted to be a firefighter or use a teleprompter. As a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I was fascinated with stories about the great unknown and explorers. I was born and raised in Encino, California, the youngest of 3 brothers. My mom was a janitor and my dad was a chef. My brothers and I would get up early, make our beds, do our homework, and wash our hands before dinner. And to be honest with you, life was pretty good. After middle school, my grandmother got sick and we moved to East New York to help take care of her. And I'm pretty certain that the plan wasn't to stay. But the day before my first day of high school, my dad suffered a massive heart attack and died. My mom had gotten a job as a paraeducator for special needs children. But after she lost my dad, she became a raging alcoholic and stopped working. My brothers weren't around, so really, it was just me and my mom. My dad died in September. By November, I was standing in line at the soup kitchen. There are good people in every place, but East New York was also littered with crackheads and drug dealers. Violence and shootings were commonplace. I wanted to go to a school that specialized in music, but I was a self-taught guitar player who couldn't read sheet music, and they required classical training. The only reason I went to FDNY High School was because it was close to my house. For the first 2 years, I was failing. I hated it. My mom put me in therapy, and I hated that too. I would show up for the session to get a free Metro card and just ride the train around the city for hours. Legally, I knew I could drop out of school when I turned 16, and that was my plan. But I had a few good friends and the help from a very awesome guidance counselor, Miss Aries, at FDNY High who said, you need to think about what you're doing and how this is going to impact your life. She was right. I had a choice to make. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but when I commit to something, I work as hard as I humanly can to succeed. I looked at Miss Arias and said, if you let me stay in this program, I won't waste this opportunity. I started going to class, studying every night, and making up credits. Junior and senior year, the real EMS training begins. I got obsessed with learning biology. As an EMT, you're not a doctor, but you are kind of like a street doctor. You're first on scene, so you need to be prepared. First time I saw someone put a fire out, it was like watching Slash from Guns N' Roses. I was mesmerized, what can I say? Maybe I was cut out for the FDNY after all. I graduated in June of 2012, got my EMT certification, and was accepted into the FDNY EMS Academy. That's when things got real. I almost missed my chance to be sworn in. I had to get my driver's license, but couldn't afford driving lessons or the $100 fee for my background check. If it wasn't for my friends who helped pay my way, two of them are sitting right over there, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. Instead, I got sworn in with the FDNY on September 23rd, 2013. For 3 months, I got up at 3:45 in the morning for a 2.5-hour commute. And at that hour, it was just me and the homeless riding the train. I also had to learn how to iron and shave. And in the beginning, I tore my face up with all kinds of razor burn. At the same time, I was learning cardiology, the respiratory system, and blunt force trauma, all the things you get exposed to on the job. I'll never forget that first paycheck. It was $606. When I saw that FDNY font next to my name, I was like, yeah, I earned this. My mentor was this old, angry Italian guy who drank his coffee black and he'd eat a banana nut muffin every day. I built a stop in at Dunkin' on my commute to get on his good side. He never said much until one day, he pulls out his laptop and he goes, okay, kid, I'm gonna make you this thing called a 457. You're gonna put money away, you're never gonna touch it, you're young, you don't have anything, you can make these garbage checks. I can't. I got all these kids. That was the start of my savings. In 2018, I got assigned to Engine 26 in Midtown Manhattan, the oldest operating firehouse in the city of New York. It's located on West 37th Street between Times Square and Penn Station. If you want to talk about the city that never sleeps, that includes my firehouse, because we run all night. Health emergencies, manhole fires, mental health crises. I've become extremely confident in my ability to help when people's worlds are falling apart. I may not be an astronaut, but every time the fire bell goes off, I'm definitely headed into the great unknown. 3 years in, I went to school to learn to drive the rig, and now it's my specialty. Pretty decent return on those driving lessons, right? I remind the probies that success isn't the guy who can lift 500 pounds one time, but it's the guy who can lift 50 pounds 500 times. I've got my own apartment. It's nothing special, but it's mine. I've got an American Express card in my wallet that I know how to use responsibly, and I've saved enough money to buy my dream guitar, a Les Paul Greenie, named after the legendary Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac. I went back to therapy, and this time I was ready to figure out how to love and care for my mom while setting some powerful boundaries. She ended up going to therapy too, and now she's got 5 years sober. She calls, we talk. She always makes sure she tells me how proud of me she is. Right now, I'm studying hard because next September I'll sit for the lieutenant's exam, which only comes around every 4 years. At that point, I'll be 33 years old, have 15 years with the FDNY, and just 5 years until I can retire with a pension, all before my 40th birthday. Eventually, I want to buy a house outside of the city and start a family of my own. But I have to say, the Firehouse really have become my family. And like family, they will get on your last nerve. But there's no question, we have each other's backs. Looking back on all of this, it occurs to me that my life has been a series of chance encounters. We're all 1 or 2 steps away from something that can completely change our lives. But as I've learned, the chances that I got didn't happen by chance. They happened because of my friends and people like Miss Aries, and they happened because of organizations like the FDNY Foundation and Robin Hood. FDNY High School is a beacon in East New York, and without it, I would have easily fallen through the cracks. Instead, this career has been a path to stability, and not just for old Italian guys who like banana nut muffins, but for men and women from all walks of life. It might not have been a part of my plan to become a firefighter, but this job does change you. It makes you accountable. It makes you dependable. It helps you learn to do the right thing even when nobody's watching. Growing up without a dad and with a mom who was struggling, this opportunity gave me the moral compass I had but needed to strengthen. The FDNY seeps into every aspect of your life, and it has so deeply changed mine. So on behalf of the alumni and all those who have yet to serve, thank you. It is truly an honor to be here with all of you today.
Good morning. I'm Kristen Lemkaw. I'm the CEO of Wealth Management for JP Morgan Chase and a very proud Robin Hood board member. Like many people in this room, I've been involved with Robin Hood for a very long time and bleed Robin Hood green. So if this is your first time at Heroes or at a Robin Hood event, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. We really, really need you and hope you can become a part of this community and this important work because there's still so much more to do. And I'm here to talk about one of the things that we still need to do, which is 70,000 fourth grade students will go to school in New York City public schools today, and 2/3 of them will not be able to read at grade level. So that's 50,000 kids. If you're good at math, that's enough to fill up 700 school buses. And there's a reason why fourth grade is super important, because that's when teachers go from teaching kids to read to kids needing to be able to read to learn before they get into middle school. And these are the times where critical intervention can totally change an outcome. Because if a child is behind in fourth grade, they are 4 times less likely to graduate from high school on time. And if that child happens to be born into poverty, they are 9 times less likely to graduate from high school on time. And that's why teachers really matter, and why our next hero and Teaching Matters matters. Since 1994, Teaching Matters has worked to help teachers in the New York City public school system teach kids how to read at that important inflection point. They teach the teachers. They work side by side with them to help coach so that the teachers can spend time with the kids that are struggling and turn it around. And it sounds basic, and it is, but it works. 82% of the kids who were on the cusp of reading at the end of 3rd grade turn it around in 10 weeks when Teaching Matters is involved. And now Teaching Matters is trying to get into preschools to be able to get ahead of the problem. One of the things I love about Robin Hood is how effective it works. If you can change the trajectory of a child by 4th grade to be able to read, they estimate that's a $45,000 return on their lifetime value. Times 50,000 kids, that's a $2 billion return. So for those of you who are investors in the room, that's about the best return on investment that I can think of. And that's why Robin Hood is so proud to work with Teaching Matters and to try to scale it and get ahead of the problem earlier. Robin Hood is going to invest $3 million to allow Teaching Matters to go from serving 50,000 students in 110 schools to 200,000 students in 420 schools. So on behalf, thank you, John Sykes. On behalf of Robin Hood, I am beyond proud to present this Heroes Award to Teaching Matters and the incredible hero, Wendy Poveda.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning, Derek, that was an amazing story. So, good morning, my name is Wendy Poveda, and I'm the principal of PS 132 in Washington Heights. That's right. I'm a proud first-generation New Yorker, born and raised in New York City. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. As a little girl, I would line up my Barbies and my brothers in front of my pink chalkboard. And today, I have the privilege of leading the school where I once learned. And every day, I also carry my grandmother's story with me. As the youngest of 13 children growing up in the Dominican Republic, my grandmother's family couldn't afford the donkey to get her back and forth to school, so she stopped going after second grade. By the time she was 22, she and my grandfather had 4 children and were living in extreme poverty. She set out for the United States on her own and took a job as a domestic worker for a family in Long Island. She saved every penny she earned, and within a year, she had enough money to reunite her family here in New York City. They settled in Washington Heights, in the apartment where I grew up, right across the street from PS 132. When I was 7, my uncle got his associate's degree in airplane mechanics. And my grandmother threw the biggest party I have ever seen. As the grown-ups excitedly passed his diploma around, I thought, that piece of paper makes people happy, and that piece of paper will get you a job. And that's when I decided, I'm gonna do one better. I'm gonna be the first person in my family to graduate from college. My mom didn't go. My dad had some college and then joined the Navy. My parents divorced when I was 6 and quickly remarried into unhealthy relationships. Our childhood was tough. The data will tell you I'm not supposed to be standing here. It will tell you that growing up in poverty with non-college educated parents and huge doses of disruption and adversity stacks the odds against you. But my mind was made up. I was going to college, and not just any college, Columbia University. I knew education was the only way out for me, and I wanted to set the bar really high. Columbia was also close enough to home that I could still watch out for my brothers. I applied for every grant, state scholarship, and opportunity program I could find. I still really wanted to teach, but once I was accepted, everyone said, Wendy, you don't go to Columbia to become a teacher. So 4 years later, with my college diploma in hand, I spent 11 miserable months in a corporate job, no offense, every day on my commute, no offense, every day on my commute, I would walk past PS 132 and hear the kids playing in the yard, and my heart ached. On the subway, I kept seeing these ads that said, you remember your first grade teacher's name. Who will remember yours? I filled out my application for the New York City Teaching Fellows Program, and in 2005, I began my career as a third grade bilingual teacher at PS 132. The choice to teach was easy. Figuring out how to teach was hard. Kindergarten through second grade is all about phonics. But if your students can't read by third grade, nothing in the curriculum supports that kind of learning. By fourth grade, if you can't read, you're almost guaranteed to be left behind. I could see the pattern, but I couldn't figure out how to break it. Our school was so under-resourced, I was using my own money as a first-year teacher to buy paper and pencils for my students. Fast forward to 2019, I became the principal of PS 132. Here's what you need to know. We have some of the greatest educators and kids in the city of New York, but we also have some of the biggest challenges. If you walk into our classrooms, you'll notice that it's full of joyful students who are excited to learn. But here's what you can't see. 3 out of 10 students don't have a permanent place to call home. 4 out of 10 students have learning differences. And 6 out of 10 students don't speak English as their first language. Many of them come to school hungry, and if you don't eat, you can't learn. Then in 2020, the pandemic hit, and 70% of our students were remote. Zoom school helped us see literally what we knew. Our students are brilliant, and they are resilient. But imagine multiple families packed into a small apartment. Some days there were 5 kids in a single room trying to learn through a screen. By 2022, we had just 19% proficiency in reading and about 4% proficiency in math, which led the state of New York to put us on a 3-year comprehensive school improvement plan. We had the teachers and the culture in place to get our students where they deserved to be. What we needed were tools and resources to succeed. And thanks to the help of Robin Hood Foundation and Teaching Matters, that's exactly what we got. Camille, our deputy superintendent, told me about Jumpstart, 12 weeks of free coaching with Teaching Matters designed to help kids learn how to read. Our teachers were skeptical. They were like, basically, this is sus. So many professional development sessions and interventions are stock, one size fits all, which usually means one size fits none. But as soon as we met our coach, Evelyn, it was clear that Teaching Matters is different. Their model is personal, individual, and data-driven. And their success, like ours, is based on consistency and relationships. Teaching Matters helped us understand how to look at reading data and act on it by translating theory into practice, not just observing, but co-teaching. Our students immediately began to excel. We had one student who repeated the 4th grade and still scored a 1 out of 4 on the state reading exam. After we engaged with Teaching Matters, she got a 3.94, 6/10 of a point away from a perfect score, meaning exceeding grade level expectations. And she's not alone. Over the past 3 years, our reading proficiency has grown from 19% to 47%. And our math proficiency has grown from 4% to 60%. PS 132 had the largest reading proficiency growth in our district. We exited our improvement plan after just 1 year, and our English language learners are performing 3 times better than their peers across the city. Together, we rose from the ashes. As an educator, my core value is equity. The bottom line is, if our students can't read, they won't have access to our economy, our democracy, or the lives they deserve. Robin Hood knows what my grandmother so deeply understands. Without an education, generational cycles of poverty are nearly impossible to break. Thanks to her, I never experienced a single day like those she had in her childhood. And my 3 kids will never experience a childhood like mine. In fact, I'm still pushing to do one better. In 2027, I will graduate with my doctorate in educational leadership. I keep speaking it into existence because these papers are, they're real. By treating reading as a civil right, we are giving the next generation of New Yorkers their shot at changing history. We are telling them that they belong. I want to thank Robin Hood and Teaching Matters for investing in us so we can invest more deeply in them. Finally, I can't get off the stage without thanking our teachers. One is right there in the back. She's the real hero. Our para-educators, our assistant principal, and our entire team, they are the real heroes. As JFK once said, we choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it is hard. And believe me, this job is hard. Our teachers were willing to unlearn everything they knew to rewrite the narrative of our school and seed a new pattern of growth, and it's working. Our team brings an unparalleled level of heart, hustle, and belief in our children to school every single day. This award belongs to them and to my grandmother, who is here today. Gracias, Mama Gloria. And thank you all.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. I'm TJ Rose, founder and managing partner of Iron Leaf Capital. When my wife and I moved back to New York City in 2022, the choice to join Robin Hood was an easy one. Their outcomes are clear, and their reputation is sterling. But what's been most powerful to see up close is how driven people are to care. The world may want you to believe otherwise. Numbers of people giving to charity may be down, but at Robin Hood, whether it's contributors, employees, grantees, or volunteers, there's a groundswell of people who care deeply about solving New York's toughest problems and delivering results. It starts at the top and permeates everything Robin Hood touches, including the housing crisis we face, which brings us to this morning's final honoree. Last night, 85,000 people slept in shelters across New York City. That's Madison Square Garden, filled to the brim 4 times over. Those people need homes, and urgently. And housing vouchers are the most effective tool we have to place them. But they can only work if people can actually use them, and too often they can't. Nationally, about 40% of housing vouchers go unused. In New York, with a vacancy rate of just 1.4%, the challenge is even greater. For vouchers to work, every part of the system, from landlords to tenants to agencies to nonprofits, must coordinate. When even one thing goes wrong, a missing signature, a faulty smoke detector, homeless families pay the price. That's the problem Robin Hood set out to solve when it seeded Anthos Home in 2022. Anthos Home is a matchmaker between landlords and voucher holders. They connect people ready to move with highly qualified apartments. They handle inspections and approvals. They help cover the costs that kill deals: repairs, back rent, moving expenses. This organization even pays landlords to hold a bank of units so they always have housing available when the next person walks through the door. They shorten move-in times and eliminate competition in the voucher market, guiding landlords and families through every single step. And once someone moves in, they stay involved for a full year, supporting tenants and landlords. No default, no miscommunications, no backsliding into the shelter system. This is a model that works. Over the past 3 years, Anthos has placed 840 people. That's 500 households and another 150 in progress. and 100% of their clients remain housed a year later. 100%. Now Robinhood is helping them scale, expanding landlord outreach and investing the tools and data systems that make operations faster and more effective. The impact, what we know, is measurable across the board. The city saves money, less labor, less bureaucracy, more people move from shelters and unsafe living conditions into stable homes. Landlords see steadier incomes and increased property values, but there's a return on investment that no analysis can capture. Our next speaker knows this better than anyone. She was the very first person they placed in a new home. What you're about to hear is what really gets unlocked when someone receives the keys to their own apartment. It is my honor to present this Heroes Award to Anthos Homes and welcome Jalen Jackson to the stage.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here today on behalf of Anthos Home to share my story with you. I've always been highly adaptable. I'm the kind of person that can take anything and turn it into something, which is helpful when you move around a lot. Both of my parents are New Yorkers, but by the time I was 6 years old, we moved everywhere from Connecticut to Alabama and many places in between. My mom had her hands full with 4 kids, the twins, my middle brother, and me. I'm the youngest. My dad, he drove a cement truck, worked in a junkyard, whatever he could find, but it was rarely enough to pay the bills. We got evicted a lot, but we stayed together. We would all sleep in one room at my grandmother's house or on the floor of someone's basement. Sometimes we shuffled between aunties and uncles. For me, it wasn't too bad because I never knew anything different. In fact, those will become my most prized memories with my parents because the summer before the 7th grade, things got a lot worse. My parents had a fight that turned violent. All I knew was that my dad was gone and the rest of us moved to a rat and roach-infested shelter in the Bronx. Here I am, 12 years old, leaving the shelter at 4:30 a.m. by myself to get to school in Queens by 7:45. It was at least a 2-hour commute, and a Metro card only gives you so many swipes. Some days, people gave me an extra swipe on their card, but others, I would have to get out at Lexington, walk to the 4 train, then find my way to the F. By the time we got a Section 8 housing voucher and moved to Brooklyn, my mother was in a new relationship that started her addiction. She kept what little food we had under lock and key. I showed up hungry to school so often that teachers and social workers repeatedly called CPS. But every time they came knocking, miraculously, there were groceries in the house. My mom would tell the caseworker I was lying, and off they would go. When she rented out my room to a strange man, my brother gave me his bed, and he started sleeping on the floor. We had a lock on the bedroom door, and we were living off of his $20 weekly college stipend. He was really trying to hold us together. We would share a beef patty or a chicken sandwich. He would buy us soap and wash our laundry. But by the time I was in the 8th grade, it was too much. He dropped out of college, and I ended up in foster care. I went willingly. I thought, this is my chance to have a normal family, clothes, and food. I thought it was going to be peaches and cream. But when I arrived, they already had a bunch of foster kids, all boys, aged 6 to 10. At one point, I was literally sleeping in the hallway. Soon enough, I was babysitting and cooking, getting them ready for school, making sure they brushed their teeth and made it to football practice. I was less of a foster kid and more of a foster parent. High school was my escape. I danced, ran track, took AP classes, and made the honor roll. Anything to keep me out of the house. When I was 17, my aunt and uncle took me in. He was an Army vet, so there wasn't a lot of room for feelings, but the structure did help me excel. I graduated from high school in 3 years with a 4.0 GPA and got accepted into college at the height of the pandemic. But when I turned 19, my uncle packed up my stuff, put it on the porch, and said I needed to either join the Army or find a new place to live. I moved in with a friend and her mom and began working full-time at a warehouse at JFK. I was on my feet doing hard labor from 10 p.m. at night until 6:30 in the morning, and doing my college classes online during the day to keep up. It was tough, but I did what I had to do. Over the next 2 years, I continued to advocate for myself, moving in and out of 3 different housing placements through the foster care system. The only silver lining during that time was meeting my fiance. He was a self-described go-getter. We both grew up in strict households and wanted something different for ourselves and one day our kids. Finally, in 2023, I got a housing voucher. Every day, we would go looking at apartments, but the stigma was real. Nobody would take that voucher. Nobody wanted to take a chance on us. That's when someone said, there's this pilot program called Anthos Home that helps people with vouchers find housing. It's new, they're still figuring it out, but you should talk to them. I thought, okay, I love trying new things, let's go. That's how I became Anthos's very first client. They turned my voucher into a golden ticket. I gave them my information, and they put in the legwork. At Anthos, the faster you move, the faster they move. And thank God, because I was weeks away from aging out of the foster care system. Our bags were already packed when they said, we have an apartment available in the kind of neighborhood you asked for, close to the train, a deli on the corner, a laundromat on the same block, and a supermarket close by. Do you want to see it? I said, I don't just want to see it, I want it. When the landlord asked me what I would do with this space, I had it all planned out. A plant here, a painting over there. He liked what I had to say and trusted Anthos so much that he offered us a 2-bedroom instead. We moved in 2 days before my 21st birthday. 1 month later, I found out I was pregnant with my son. Without Anthos, I would have aged out of foster care and been living back in a shelter. But their support doesn't end when you sign the lease. Anthos bought me dressers, lamps, dishes, the whole 9 yards. When the Con Ed bill came back, and it was thousands of dollars because my account was wired to someone else's apartment, Anthos helped me resolve it. When the power went out before our first Thanksgiving, and I was pregnant, freezing, with no way to keep food from spoiling, and no one could reach the building management, Anthos got us up and running. Even when you don't have a problem, they call every few months for the first year to ask if there's anything you need. And it's not just me. Over the last 2 years, Anthos has helped 840 people with housing vouchers find a place to call home in New York City. And their retention rate is 100%. It's hard to do better than that. Right now, I'm working as an administrative assistant, completed my pharmacy tech credential, and soon will have my license from the state. I want to work in a pediatric hospital in labor and delivery and eventually become a specialist in the pharmacy lab. They are more well-respected and they get paid more. But the best part is, we have a safe, stable place for our son, Nair. Not comfortable, but stable. My parents were too comfortable with where they were. We want to stay uncomfortable enough to achieve our dreams. Eventually, we want a house with a yard, a place for Nair to run around, one that we could look back at and say, he moved in here when he was 2 years old. And when he needs a tire fixed after he gets his driver's license, or a TV hung up on the wall of his college dorm, when he needs to learn how to pay his first bill or sign his own lease, we will be there to guide him the way Anthos guided me. In so many ways, Anthos was the parent I needed, the parent I never had. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to everyone at Anthos Home and all of you for supporting organizations like Robin Hood and New Yorkers like me. I want to thank every person who encouraged me, let me stay for dinner, or sleep on their couch. And I want to thank my siblings for showing me that what doesn't break us makes us. Finally, I want to acknowledge my husband, who is here today, for standing by my side as we break the generational curses and cycles we inherited by providing our son with the life he deserves. Thank you.